At the time, like the community, it's quite interesting, right? Because on community comes up in a number of different ways. On one hand, if you had an ape profile picture, hundreds of people would follow you right away. They would be in your DMs. They would be welcoming you. They would want to get to know you. There were folks who were posting where they lived. Safa and I, in some of the earliest days, just randomly met a bunch of apes in Brooklyn because that's what apes were doing. It wasn't like a commercial meeting. It was just a meeting to like get to know each other because we were all part of the Bored Ape Yacht Club. But on sort of the other end of the spectrum, people were creating things, and that's why we posted the first story as Jenkins, was not because, I mean, we'd been talking about this idea for a long time, but it was encouraged by the fact that there were dozens of other ape holders who were doing their own creative things. So it felt like an invitation for you to contribute back to the community in like any way that you thought of.
Why did you choose Jenkins? What was the idea? You see that because you've got to buy an ape here,
Sure.
and the two of you got this crazy idea. You want to turn a character into something much bigger, long form storytelling.
Uh-huh.
Why Jenkins? Why not somebody else?
A fantastic question. Ape 1798 looks more like a valet than pretty much any ape I've ever seen looks like something else. And every ape is special. Every ape has a story to tell. Why does one ape have a baby's bonnet on and a kazoo in its mouth that he's probably been partying like way too long or something? But when we saw Ape 1798, we looked at him and almost immediately it just like screamed like valet, secret keeper, person who works the door, all of those things. And so for a couple people who are interested in storytelling and building a character, he stood out to us, Ape 1798, as one that you could do that with.
I mean, I just think the idea of the valet being the conduit for storytelling is genius, right? Because the valet is like the concierge. They're all seeing, they know everything, they get all of the secrets. And that little unlock creates almost everything. Really, really great idea.
That's what it was. And at first it was like, we're going to stop practicing discretion and share everything that we've seen at the Bored Ape Yacht Club. And that combined with this was happening at a time where the BAYC was just reaching like really peak sort of notoriety within the NFT space. The demand for a secret keeper and storyteller from that community rose. And we were just really fortunate to like fill that void.
And once you start now developing this idea and launch Jenkins, do you start reaching out to other people who are doing storytelling? Because, I met, for example, Timberland and what they're doing with Ape in Productions. And I'm like, well, here's something interesting because here's the storytellers and here's a bunch of apes doing something you can tell a story about. Have you started kind of thinking, okay, what's the broader, wider narrative here that you can go through?
Yeah, so back in May of 2021, when we told the first story, the Jenkins like origin story was very much an invitation for other people to reach out to us. So the idea is that Jenkins has this job. He's the head valet at the club. It's a really big deal that he got it. Like it mattered a lot that he has the opportunity to serve in this role. And so because of that, he's trustworthy. He doesn't want to lose his job. He practices his discretion and he basically does anything that any patron needs. So he sneaks non-members into the clubs through laundry carts. He holds private keys. He may or may not have like done a hit or two, depending on some drama that's going on. And because demand for the Bored Ape Yacht Club back in May of 2021 is starting to grow, Jenkins now has offers in his private messages to like write his tell-all, right? Someone wants to basically buy his secrets. And so the way that story ends is very much like an invitation for other people to help collaborate on like what are the secrets that Jenkins knows. And that invitation is the same exact thing that we're doing today in Tally Labs and in the writer's room and sort of all of the products that we're building. It's just grown from one character on Twitter to sort of like a bit more of like an ecosystem that we are trying to build. But after that first story, we just posted a form. And the form basically said, if you are an ape holder, odds are you've worked with Jenkins. Write in and tell us in a sentence or two about who your ape is and what they did with Jenkins, and we will turn around and we'll write like a story for you and we'll build IP around your character. And it blew us away how many apes wrote in and filled out this form. And as time went on, hundreds wrote in and gave us like this really fascinating creative. Like they're robots sent back from the future. They are bankers who, have bought every crypto dip, and like everything in between, heads of the mafia, Russian spies. Like it was really unbelievable. And that showed us that whether you are, creative with your day job, or you're just like a person who bought an ape who has some idea about what they can be, there are really interesting ways to contribute to like content and storytelling and all of those types of things.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible to crowdsource characterization. It kind of saves you a lot of a job because you're given characterization from the ape holders, and you can then pick and choose from that to think, how can I weave this in certain ways? So let's talk about Jenkins the Valet, that whole project, where you are now, what's going on, where you're going, and then the Tally Labs, in the broader context.
Yeah. We're laser focused on getting this book out for our community, which we're super excited about.
Talk to people about the book as well, because some people won't be aware of it, and I think this is great too.
For sure. We feel, and we hope, and our goal is for it to be sort of one of the first longer form content projects that originates in the NFT space that eventually can really transcend it and become something that's widely consumed. We put in, a New York Times bestseller in Neil Strauss to write it, which, was like the first step that we felt we really needed to take in order to give it the best chance to succeed. And then we've stacked some like other amazing collaborators around him. And so that book itself is going to be an amazing piece of art that has been created by an artist named MBSJQ, who's a top 20 grossing artist on Super Rare. The art itself will rotate as a custom beat created by Murda Beats, who's a Grammy-nominated producer, he's worked with Drake, Nicki Minaj, Future, Travis Scott, like some amazing folks. And so we have a creative house based out of Hiroshima, Japan, who's doing a Where's Jenkins, which is like our version of Where's Waldo, and it's like incredibly intricate. And so there's all these awesome collaborators involved. The plot was entirely voted on by the community. You sort of mentioned it prior, but the characters are all owned by members of the community. So in a lot of ways, it's like a really special and premium sort of like work that I think the whole NFT space will be able to rally behind and represent. And so our thought has always been, if you make content with your community rather than make something and then sell it to them, you never have to wonder if they're going to like it because they're involved from the beginning. And so we feel that it's created like just a much more organic connection between us and the community. So that book is coming out shortly. We're going to probably be releasing a date here in the next couple weeks. What you can do with that book is really sort of where the business goes from here. So we have a number of other properties that are coming out. Jenkins Audio Experience really positions Jenkins as the storyteller of the metaverse and allows us to move sort of horizontally between it. And so that is a partnership with a group called Salt Audio, who's an award-winning fiction podcast company, really, really high production. Like we call them essentially TV shows without visuals. And so each episode is going to feature Jenkins visiting another community, learning what makes it special, all through like a really exciting plot that we're pumped about. And again, the characters that appear in that will be owned by the community and licensed to us as well. So that's super exciting. And then where the journey sort of culminates is, one thing that we like to do is wrap business strategy in like creative and lore and take our community on a journey as the business grows. And so the journey will end in Azerbala, which is a world that we have spent the last 6+ months building in partnership with Emma Needell, who's a screenwriter who's actually has a film in Tribeca this year and has a movie on Netflix as well. She built this entire world with us, and our community will be able to mint avatars from that world.